Now, what we've all been waiting for, we're gonna talk about what's happening. You know, up here with me, or how are we gonna do this? So today, just to bring you all up to speed, because I know there's been lots of information, propaganda out there, et cetera. Today, NAR, Keller Williams, Remax, and Anywhere which encompasses Coldwell Banker, et cetera, have reached potential settlements. These settlements are not yet finalized and must be approved by the court, which will not occur for several months yet. July is when they're targeting. Everyone's settlements have agreed to similar items such as no longer requiring a seller to pay cooperative broker compensation, not to sort listings based on cooperating commission, refrain from using the words free service when discussing commissions with buyers and other items. First and foremost, if you haven't read it yourself, go ahead and read the actual agreement of the National Association of Realtors. It's good reading, and that's just going to help you internalize it more. If study it, I mean, make yourself a student of it. There's a great video that I'm going to be sharing with you guys in an email from the Chief Legal Counsel, the Chief Legal Officer about it. Also, hear what she has to say on the next steps and additional details. Don't rely on what you are seeing from social media and the news. The news has put such a negative spin on this. Don't let it freak you out, because we're going to be just fine. I promise you. There are facts between all of the speculation and the drama. Remember, news is there to create a story worth listening to, and that is their full job. There are lots of opinions from commentators, local and national news sources, and lots of inflammatory language about the real estate market. None of that is further from the truth or fruitful for you. It doesn't help anybody. So watch for that link and make sure you watch and study. Here's what we know. Trust and pay attention to all these details. There's 4 key items in the settlement. The first is the release of liability. The agreement releases NAR, over 1 million NAR members, all state and territorial and local realtor associations, all association-owned MLSs, and all brokerages with an NAR member as principal broker that had a residential transaction volume in 2022 of $2 billion or below from liability for the types of claims brought in these cases on behalf of home sellers related to broker commissions. This is important. Not all, but some MLSs require participation with NAR. As we discussed with the previous ruling, Keller Williams has had in our procedures and guidelines manual already that as a company, we do not require participation with NAR. NAR fought to include all members in the release and was able to ensure more than 1 million members are included. Despite NAR's efforts, agents affiliated with Home Services of America and its related companies, the last corporate defendants still litigating the case, are not released under the settlement. The settlement creates a framework for future statements with certain entities not released under the agreement. For brokerages with a 2022 transaction volume greater than $2 billion, plaintiffs will accept payment of 0.0025 of their average annual transaction volume over the previous 4 years. This amount would be $5 million if the average transaction volume were $2 billion, just to put it in perspective. Compensation offers moved. So anyway, we are covered under the settlement that Keller Williams provided, just to make that clear. This most recent settlement, it didn't affect or take care of us. That's for companies that are 2 billion or less. The second point, compensation offers moved off of the MLS. This seems to be the biggest question from agents and from consumers. In short, where it has buyer's agent compensation percentage amounts listed at the bottom of the agent MLS. This will no longer be listed starting sometime in July of this year. You can still request an amount on the offer and communicate with the listing agent to find the buyer agency compensation. To be clear, this does not mean buyer's agents will not be compensated anymore, or they are not able to be compensated your rate, what you charge. It's just how the compensation is being communicated is changing. What a great time to own our own technology. Being a part of a brokerage that has 1,100 agents in the city of Columbus, we have the ability to easily add the feature to communicate between all of our agents. During our growth call on Monday, we were told that the CIO of Keller Williams has already said they're ready to make the changes. Compensation can be added to your websites, our websites. The third item, offers of cooperative compensation cannot be made on the MLS. Agents cannot make offers of cooperative compensation on the MLS. MLSs must eliminate all broker compensation fields on the MLS and prohibit the sharing of offers of cooperation compensation and any other MLS field. NAR and any MLSs released under the settlement also cannot create or support any non-MLS mechanism, such as an internet aggregator's website for sellers or listing agents to make offers of cooperative compensation to buyer's agents. Number 2 under that, sellers can offer concessions to the buyer in a public comment field and an MLS listing if the concessions are not conditioned on paying the buyer's agent's commission. So they can offer to pay for closing costs or items like that, but they can't offer to pay for commissions. However, as part of the negotiation of the purchase contract, sellers and buyers can agree to apply the concessions to the buyer agent's commission. As a practical matter, even though it cannot be called cooperative compensation, the amount of a seller's concession can match the amount the seller would offer as cooperative compensation as part of the contract negotiations. The last big bullet item, offers of cooperative compensation may be made off the MLS. Nothing in NAR settlement prohibits sellers or listing agents from making offers of cooperative compensation to buyer's agents off the MLS. For example, by email, newsletter, calls, texts, etc. Be aware that all communications must always be TCPA compliant. Before listing agents can offer compensation to buyer's agents, they must disclose and obtain seller approval for any offer in conspicuous language that stands out and is clearly visible. An MLS cannot require agents to make or accept offers of cooperative compensation as a condition to joining or participating in the MLS. MLSs also cannot require that offers of cooperative compensation, if made, be blanket, unconditional, or unilateral. Written agreements for MLS participants acting for buyers. While NAR has been advocating for the use of written agreements for years, in this settlement, they agreed to require agents working with buyers to enter into written representation. So buyer's agreements are required under their agreement. This change will go into effect in July 2024 with NAR. We will discuss more on what our office intends to do here as we go forward. Agents working with buyers must sign a written buyer representation agreement with the buyer before the agent can show a home listed on an MLS. So there's the time when it has to happen. Just like you have to present consumer guides, before you show a home, you're going to have to do a buyer's agreement. This can sound scary and like change. It is the first substantial conversation with a buyer. Unless inconsistent with federal or state law, the buyer representation agreement must include at least these items. Agents must disclose the amount or rate of compensation they will receive or how this amount will be determined. The amount of compensation must be set in the agreement, such as a percentage or dollar amount, and cannot be open-ended. For example, the agreement cannot say, buyer broker compensation shall be whatever amount the seller is offering to pay the buyer. Offering to the buyer, I should say.
So you can't do a variable rate commission on your buyer, on the buy side?
But that's what I've been given, or what I've been told about.
You take less.
So then if the seller is offering it, but you put it on the agreement before you can show the home, then you can get both.
No,
No.
you can only get what you've agreed to.
On the document.
So
Oh, that's not-
if you're showing $1 million house and you said, I'll represent you for a flat $2,000, to my understanding, all you can receive is
Yes.
compensation is $2,000.
Agents cannot receive compensation for brokerage services from any source more than the amount or rate agreed to in the buyer representation agreement. For example, an agent could not accept an offer of cooperative compensation for more than the amount or rate agreed to in the buyer representation agreement. So that just.
So set
Can't accept less.
So set your commission at 40 grand. And you can't.
Don't forget, you gotta get a buyer to sign it. But yeah, you go down, you just can't go up, because there's been questions about builders throwing out bonuses, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The way this reads, you can't do that.
Yeah, but we can change in the contract every time we do, we can do a,
Like I didn't.
A new agreement?
well, no,
You gotta do the new buyer.
but.
The builders are usually on the MLS, right? So do you think this is really gonna affect us with builder buyers?
Say that again?
Do you guys really think this will affect us with builders? Because the builders typically don't advertise on the MLS. I mean, some of them do. But there's not gonna be an MLS situation with the builder.
Well, there is sometimes, we're working at standard forms on a complete different, builder contract, but we tabled it yesterday because builders have their own contract, they don't abide by
Right.
it. And there is no fiduciary protection for our buyers when we bring them to builders. So, and there's really, this makes it worse and not change at all.
Okay.
But what I was saying before is, if I set my commission at 40 grand. And then as an inducement of sale, I reduce my commission. You can't do that.
One of the other issues that.
Inducements are always disclosed.
As long as it's closed and earlier.
Yeah, it's in the debt.
Let's not ignore the fact that you got somebody to sign a buyer agreement saying they'll pay you for it.
Yeah, but I'm gonna explain to them how this works, like, we're out shopping for $1 million homes, so I got a $40,000 commission. And if it doesn't work out, I'll amend it as an inducement of sale. It's all about a conversation that we never had before.
So these are all good debating questions right now, and what we're trying to do, and the reason why we pulled this meeting together today, and we will do it again and again and again. You know, July's gonna come along and we're gonna have a whole bunch of people saying, what? So what we want to do is to start building our foundation of how we understand, how we represent our buyer clients. You know, we already know the MLS statement of compensation will be removed. It does say that in the MLS, you could say that there are buyer concessions. Our buyer concessions, of course, when you have that agreement, remember you need the agreement first. So our buyer concessions, your fee.
Yes.
So, okay, if the buyer concessions, now you have to get a hold of there's gonna be some type of level of communication with the listing agent, what those buyer concessions are willing to be. And, you know, if you say, hey, I want X amount of dollars and you're gonna only get half of that from the seller, you know, then that's another discussion.
Yeah, but buyer concessions can also, like, the buyer can choose to use those for their closing costs and not to pay you as well. So it's-
That's a very good question.
The concession isn't necessarily a co-op.
Depends on the type of loan you have too. Bill and I were talking yesterday about the types of loan. If you're an FHA lender and you qualify for a 3% down. And you negotiate a commission of X amount of dollars, you could disqualify the buyer on an FHA lower end spectrum. So you want to hit that up again?
Yeah, actually,
There's 3 tiers of
that's
compensation.
what we're talking about there is conventional loans. So 10% or less down payment, the maximum what they call IPC, interested party contributions, is 3%. So if you're earning 3% and the seller needs 2% extra for closing costs,
Concessions.
they no longer can get that because it's capped. If you're putting down between 10 and 25, that goes to 6% on a conventional loan. And then over 25% down, it goes to 9. When you get into your FHA, USDA loans, those are standard 6% regardless. Well, because USDA has no down payment, FHA is 3.5 minimum down payment. So you do have to be careful how that's structured.
And it's the importance of having a great communication with your lender.
Well, that's what
Lender
said.
What's that?
Lender said that with the contract they get, they need to see that buyer's agreement too. And now you have a liability for some seller to that buyer's agent.
Did you guys hear that? Hey,
But they can't pay.
So,
I'll say that again.
what Paul is saying, you know, because this is, now this has affected the loan. And, so if you have an agreement that says I get my $40, then that's gonna have to go with the contract, because now, is that gonna disqualify, or, you know, is he gonna throw the buyer out of the buying scenario because of the compensation factor to the brokerage? Right, Paul?
Yes, just like they said again this morning, they said they can't finance those costs either. They have to be paid.
No, let's, right now, this is a big story. The lenders are still trying to figure this out.
They need
So
to be
this
able
is
to-
not, this could change 60 days from now, this could change 30 days from now. But we'll be here to keep you posted. So what we wanted to do today is show you some guidance, okay? We need to start paying attention, we need to start studying how to present ourselves. And we put together a program with some videos today. And so you can see what a buyer, I mean, how many of you go on a listing appointment with a listing presentation? You all do, I hope you do. So now you're going to go on a buyer's presentation. So what does your presentation look like? And so if you want X amount of dollars, I'm willing to take $100 or whatever, I'm not suggesting nothing here, but I'm not gonna offer you nothing. But if I want more money, if I'm looking for a different level of compensation, then you're gonna have to outline what your services are. What are your services? What are you gonna do for me? Because what's the buyer gonna say? What am I paying? What, I gotta pay you that much money for what? You know, and now there's a lot of services, and we're gonna outline those things for you. We have a good resource. We started putting together a great resource for everybody to tie into.
We've sent out a couple of emails already, and we'll help you with others as well. It was funny, I was on the Clubhouse call this morning. And one of the agents said they went on the chat GPT and said, what are services that a buyer's agent performs for a buyer? And it said it spit out over 100 in 2 seconds. And so if you are struggling for what do I do? What, I mean, obviously you should know what to do and make your list, but sometimes it's so elementary in your own mind, you may not think of things. So, you know, do your research, spend your time putting these presentations together so that you do outline the things you do. You should do a lot.
It's like, here's 50 ways to lose your lover. But there's 105 ways, there's 105 items that you guys do as a buyer's agent. Now, if you're a listing agent, there's 178 ways. So those are documents. We have some forms. Now, how many of you know how to go into your intranet and go to the document section? Okay, and they're in there. So we're gonna have to teach you how to get to your intranet and go into the document section. And as you open it up, you're gonna see 105 ways, buyer's agent represents their buyer, 178 ways that if you're a listing agent, these are the things that you need to do or should do or whatever. Take that. There's no sense in trying to invent the wheel. It's already been written for you. Take that and put it into your presentation.
Also, your KWGC agent resources website. We have
Yes.
everything there, from how to collect earnest money to these new documents to anything you might need. So make sure you use that website. I think people forget it's there.
Someone likes that.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Unmute.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, I have a question about like the buyer's concession. How, if buyers can set their own amount, what amount is Keller Williams taking from the buyer's agent then? If it's all going to be different and based on per client and per agent's dollar amount?
All right, number one, we don't talk amounts. If you're asking us, what should I tell you, we're not gonna tell you what amount you should negotiate on your behalf and representing your buyer client.
But I think your question is about your commission split with the brokerage, and your commission split with the brokerage is your commission split with the brokerage. I mean, the amount that you negotiate as your fee as a buyer's agent is variable, between you and your client. But nothing changes as far as the brokerage piece and your split. I mean, that's not part of the equation. Tracy?
Okay, so, but, until July, we don't know exactly what's gonna happen.
That's right.
Let's talk about the trade. So, the news doing a bad job for us right now, so if we show up to a listing appointment, I believe we should somehow, some way have a script on understanding how we have a conversation with seller. How we're gonna really do our daily business. Is there anything changed? Are we gonna offer? How we gonna really handle all the objection and question from true consumer out there?
Yeah, I mean, we will need to come up with some scripts. I think part of, when we start establishing scripts and dialogues, correct me if I'm going off track here. As we go through the first stage of this, let's understand what we must do as buyer's agents. You understand that as a buyer's agent. Now I'm sitting in front of my seller, and I'm gonna say, here are the challenges that buyers may have today in purchasing a home. If you're $1 million buyer, your challenges may be less than a $300,000 or $200,000 buyer. So these are the challenges that we're going to come against. Now, by the change of the law, I cannot recommend to you what that fee should be. But these are some of the costs that are going to be involved. So I believe, Jensen, I think, was it you and I were talking, as the MLS, as the Forest Committee starts to rewrite the documents on the listing agreement, instead of having, remember on our listing agreement right now, there's one box, how much you're gonna get paid?
Yes.
So now it's gonna say, if I'm the listing agent, I'm gonna get a fee service, percentage service here. If there's a buyer, the buyer will get this. If there's a dual agent, maybe the dual agent will get this. So I think we're rewriting the forms so we could have these conversations. So you can say, well, in order for me to sell your home, I need this much to provide the high level of service. But, maybe it's different for the
Did we
buyer.
need anything official from the board, from the MLS?
So that's already happening. We have, and it's not, Standard Forms is not doing it. Columbus Bar Association is writing it as we speak.
There's a legal side first.
We started a subcommittee yesterday because none of this has actually happened. Like, none of this is, it's just.
It's coming.
Could be, but it could
Yeah.
change completely. I mean, probably not likely, but.
Yeah.
So we started a subcommittee to start amending our forms, because let's talk about a Zillow lead or an internet lead. I mean, generally speaking, you show up, you're pop-up realtor, you unlock the door, you don't know that person, you're kind of giving your elevator speech while you're at the appointment. They're not gonna come to our office and sit down and have a buyer's meeting and sign all these forms. They just wanna go see that house. Well, now we're gonna have to send them a buyer broker agreement before we unlock that door. So it's gonna be interesting, which is exactly why Zillow's stock went in the toilet on Friday last week.
Well, I also think though, everyone's going to have to do that, so the
Right,
consumers
but
are
a buyer
going
broker,
to
but a buyer
eventually
broker
go
form
into it.
doesn't mean exclusive right to represent buyers, so it might just be, hey, before we go in the house, I need you to sign this form, which is gonna spell out your commission.
Like everyone should be doing that with consumer guide, should be. But,
So,
yeah.
and Tracy, to answer your question, so how to have the conversation with the seller right now.
Yes,
So, number one is to have your list of things that you do, your value and your presentation ready. And it can be variable, you might do different things for different fee schedules, let's say. And then say, I charge this. And this is why. The second piece of the conversation would be, Ms. Seller, I need to ask you, would you like to offer compensation to a buyer's agent? And these are the advantages for doing so.
I thought we're not allowed to ask that. I thought they pay us as a listed agent and we share our commission to the buyer agent.
And that is true, we do so. However, that compensation is going to need to be discussed versus it being an automatic. All that's really happened is they've unbundled, instead of having one amount, one X percentage, it's bundled and now you have to speak of and ask for both.
But isn't it really against what they are discussing right now? Because they basically say the seller is not forced to really pay the commission to the buyer agent.
And they
After they
don't
pay
have to,
us
they
in a lump sum, and we do whatever with that amount is our business. Isn't it the case?
And your lump sum could be any amount. We can
Right.
talk about numbers, but it could be any amount, which could be greater or less than what you
Right.
charged in the past. And that amount could be one of my strategies as your listing agent to make sure I get the most money for you in the quickest time and the is to recommend that you offer compensation and to, otherwise your pool of buyers will shrink.
If they
You know, and here's the thing, we're gonna have to deal with listing, people who wanna sell their property that says, I ain't paying a buyer. I mean, you think that's not coming? That's coming, so you.
It's already happened with a few of our
It's
agents
gone.
because of the negative press that's out.
It's visible for the 1,000 years.
No. And that's why we need to build I wanna get to Martha, she's been raising her hands, go ahead.
I think that you're gonna find that a lot of buyers are gonna start contacting the listing agent already. So it's gonna be a lot more dual agency. Because buyers are gonna try to cut out the middleman. Because they wanna get the better deal, because they're being told that on the media.
And at that point, that's where agents have to educate buyers and sitting down, that buyer consultation has so much value. Because if it is a dual agent situation, they're not represented.
Well, yeah.
They have no representation, nobody negotiating on their behalf. So that's where and those conversations have always been there. It's just, you may have them more frequently than you did in the past because of the press that we're getting right now. And I do think the dust will settle.
I think it does settle too. Kimberly,
So if, back to Tracy, so if I say my compensation is this amount, these are all the services all my services. And then out of that, can I offer that our brokerage will pay
Yeah.
buyer compensation? So if I do a bulk amount, let's say 20%.
Don't use the number.
An astronomical, whatever. So if I offer I say, this is what I would like, and then out of this, I'm willing to offer to the buyer's agent brokerage this amount of money.
That's my
Can you
question.
do that?
Because my understanding is not. It's basically just us and whatever we do, it's not really.
If you ask
So this-
them if they will provide compensation to the buyer's agent. And an agreed upon amount, then you can do that.
Is that on?
it has to be in writing.
Does
It
that,
has to be in writing that.
Yes.
Okay, but so it'd be really no different than saying, this amount of compensation for me, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and this amount of compensation for the buyer. But I was just wondering if, let's say, we're so good at doing our presentation and saying this is what, why we should give compensation.
to a buyer's broker, can I pay that out of my commission versus separating it?
I'm not sure if the settlement really.
It doesn't, I mean, it really.
There's gonna be an agreement of how that just, I mean, right now.
Right now,
We're
you
trying
can
to
do
say, here's a hard line, this is what we need to do.
Right now, you can do that.
In the listing
It could change.
agreement, it says,
Yeah.
seller, in the listing agreement right now, it says, and it probably won't change, that seller has to agree, yes or no, to paying a buyer.
That's right.
But
So
no,
that's not gonna change. Yes, it is, if the amounts in the,
It's not a breakdown between the two.
it doesn't have. You're
I
charging.
mean, what do you do when you have a FISBA?
Right, in the contract.
You put it in writing saying, hey, I got a buyer for your house, and I'm gonna pay this much, you want the buyer or not?
So right now,
So I
because
think we've gotten to that level, and the reason why we've gotten to this level is because we've always put a percentage or a number in compensation. And part of the lawsuit is that the seller never knew that they were paying you, the buyer,
Yes, they
a commission. I mean, they theoretically never knew. So now we're breaking it down and saying, Mr. Seller, we're gonna pay me this much, I'm gonna pay the buyer this much,
and Jeff is right, Tracy, it does say in the listing agreement
yes,
that we will co-op with
it
it.
doesn't say how.
And it doesn't say an amount, so it's capped for right now, because it will change between now and July, and we don't know what that is yet. For right now, yes, that's when you need to have that conversation, this is what I charge. Do you also wanna offer compensation for the buyer's agent? And then discuss what they want to offer, and then explain the importance or the value of a buyer's agent bringing a vetted, pre-approved buyer that can negotiate on their part, make the transition smoothly, and make sure that they're a good buyer versus it terminating, falling out of contract, all the different things that could possibly happen.
So that's that number, like, it's not gonna be based on a percentage anymore, it's just gonna be like.
It can still be a percentage, but it's not fixed.
Yeah.
So
It's
you
not standard.
there's no standard, it's never been standard.
Remember anything, in the listing agreement, we used to have a variable rate commission. So, if I'm looking at this. So it's gonna be the same thing.
So you need to ask them, what do you want to provide?
So what we wanted to do is,
And make no suggestion,
the procedure is, let's figure out, we're here today because the buyer's agency agreement is coming down the pike, supposedly it's like July. These things are gonna be implemented by the NAR. Since we are NAR members, Ohio Realtor members, Columbus Realtor members, where they got the tri-pack there. But we'll be following these guidelines. And so compliance is gonna say, well, where's your buyer's agency agreement? It doesn't have to be exclusive buyer's agency, you could use an exclusive agreement, or you can just use a buyer's agreement. So then you have, it shows in compliance that you have disclosed how your fees are gonna be. But let's go through, you ready for this? Let's go through the.
well, hang on, did we get
Someone in
Lancaster?
Lancaster had a question.
Yeah, someone in Lancaster. had a
Oh,
question.
someone else
Let's
had a
get to that
question?
real
Go
quick.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, whoever had a question.
Hey, Abe Javati coming at you from sunny Florida. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Hey, so I did want to chime in on just a couple of things. An example of what we just heard in the office there. Stay away from the word standard. I still hear a lot of agents say, yeah, pretty standard rate. Customary is a much better word to use. Standard implies an industry-wide standard, and that would be price fixing. So customary is a much better word to use than standard when we're talking about rates.
You're correct, 100%.
Another thing, I almost feel like with the new rules, it would be easier to just treat every transaction like a FISBO, where the listing agent has gotten their agreement and their compensation figured out, and we just, as a buyer's agent, write our compensation requests from the seller in as part of the offer.
Bill, you got some thoughts on that, Bill. I can see your brain.
Well, yeah, and it really just comes back to that interested party contributions. You know, two things. I was talking to Mark and Mick yesterday, 30 years in the business. I've never known what any of you guys were earning until we got to Alta, right? Because it's not part of the contract. There's nothing in there that says, you know, Jensen's going to make X percentage of the sale price and Zena's gonna make X percentage of the sales price. So when you start incorporating it into the purchase agreement, it automatically makes it interested party contributions. Now, that's one of the calls. I was on a call yesterday with the higher ups from Mutual of Omaha. We're reaching out to FHFA, Fannie, Freddie, because since we've never considered that before, right? Because you could have 3% seller contributions for closing costs and then still see base X percentage, I almost said a number out, I got beat up in here, X percentage of number of commission coming from the seller side of the Alta before. Going forward, will Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, all the different loan types just recognize and exclude any payments to buyer's representation if it's written in the contract? That's just like you guys on the lending side, we're still trying to figure out too. Well, one of the questions is, when we send out our initial disclosures, do we have to include your buyer agreement fee as a closing cost, right? You know, some people have asked, you know, will lending just change and we get to roll those fees in? Well, I really think no on that part, because mortgages are sold as securities, right? Securities are priced by risk. So if you took a 3% down conventional mortgage for a first-time home buyer, financed X percent, now you're at 98, 99, 100% loan to value. That risk means higher rates. So could it be done? Yes. What does that do? Probably affect affordability even more than we're dealing with right now. So just writing it in as a contract, what I asked Mark was, is there like an agency agreement? You know, something that would go from agent to agent or broker to broker that would not be part of the contract until more defined.
There's a form we can use in commercial commission agreement.
Yeah.
We always present that form before we show commercial property. If the agent don't agree to it, we don't show. We can ask the buyer, you want me to pay me before I show it. So we already do that in commercial. I guess we can do it in residential too.
And believe me, Martha, Tracy, I'll testify. There are sometimes where, we might be in a multi-million-dollar contract and the seller saying, I'm paying you nothing. I mean, well, wait a second, we're bringing you all this money. And they have, your buyer's got to be responsible for you. While we're just presenting the property to the market for sale based upon our terms and conditions, and how you get compensated, not my problem. And we have to deal with that frequently, don't we? And a lot of times you're going, well, sometimes you have the upper hand to saying, well, you won't get my buyer. Well, you better make sure your buyer understands that. You can't pull a wild card, well, I'll just won't show my buyer, and then buyer finds out, you're gonna get in trouble.
It just seems like a ton of liability.
But here, I want there was some white paper, NAR sent out its ruling, and it's on its NAR website. It says, based on our interpretation of, this is so does the settlement chart change, does the settlement change access to mortgage for buyers? It says, based on the interpretation of our current guidance, buyers should be able to get financing from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA under these scenarios. But NAR is working to verify that this interpretation will hold. However, none of these agencies will allow a buyer to finance a commission into the mortgage at this time. So remember, we're planning for July. Okay, right now, everything's status quo, our MLS is the MLS, but these are the things we need to understand before July.
We are not planning on dissociating from an NAR, nor is the Columbus MLS.
No, we're not gonna.
We don't know at this point what's gonna happen there. That's unknown.
That probably wouldn't change what's going on.
Right.
Yeah. So if the NAR will have, its most recent update on the settlement, NAR settlement, which happened this week. you'll be able to go, there's two tabs down at the bottom. One addresses the financing interest into buyers, and the other is just some of the criteria that Daly just went over. Like you can't offer out commissions in the MLS anymore. You have
What about Zillow? And.
Zillow's a different beast. And you don't think Zillow's concerned?
No, I just wanna know, are we gonna be able to offer our compensation?
On a third party,
Compensation on a third.
on a third party?
Zillow is the brokerage.
Well, the agreement does say you can't disseminate information on a entity that derives their information from an MLS. And I thought Zillow did take their data from.
And
They
Zillow
do,
is
but
a
they
brokerage.
split themselves into two. So they're a brokerage and they're a marketing company.
Yeah, that's right.
They've created separate LLCs so that they can act in two.
Zillow is an MLS, and then you have Zillow brokerage. So, like Jason said.
What I saw too, with Zillow is, well, and then I think they don't, they own Showtime.
Yes.
So basically the consensus was they're not gonna jeopardize their ability to get that information from the MLS and let it be used on their products.
You know,
So.
remember Zillow sells buyer leads.
Pay $10,000 a month.
And those that are participants within that, they pay a lot of money, they're gonna go back to Zillow and say, oh, wait a second, we gotta renegotiate this deal. So let's move ahead. I think we should go ahead, let's look at what some of the people in the industry have been doing. Came across this buyer's consultation, talks about, some of the things that this particular guy from a different brokerage. About how he manages his consultation with his buyers. We're gonna follow up. There's some additional information after this, and that information will be from the NAR. The NAR is offering the accredited, the ABR, the Accredited Buyers Representative course for free. For free.
Great
Why
time
is that?
advantage.
Because NAR is, they just told the courts that they're gonna change the way they do business. And so they have a 1.5 million members. Those 1.5 million members need to figure out how to change how we're gonna do business. So they're offering the ADR designation. It's not the designation, it's two of the primary classes. It's not the full class. But it'll really lay the foundation.
The whole thought behind this and showing your value, having that consultation, explaining it to buyers. I don't wanna lose you guys in the midst of that so that we continue on with what we need to talk about here. So we didn't do the lights there, Mark. You did the lights.
We learn by visualization. So watching somebody else do a presentation does help. Okay, how do I go about this? I mean, go to YouTube, type in accredited buyers representative. There'll be dozens of links come up. So go to the NAR website.
Here are some things though I do want you to make sure that you take away today, mark your calendar with. I want to challenge you to do these three things because of what's coming down the pipe here. So the first thing is Gary Keller at Family Reunion announced that he and Jay Papasan are teaching a class called Value Squared. And it is going into great detail about how to articulate your value. We're going to be showing it here in the training room. The first one is coming up next week on the 26th. You can sign up to watch it on your own. I recommend coming in and watching it with us with a group because then we can talk about it. The things that you see there, some strategies, some thoughts around it, and mastermind around it. Gary Keller is going to be teaching the one next week himself from his office. So I didn't get to see the first one. Did any of you in here get to watch it?
Gonna be on Monday, right?
The 26th, whatever day that is next week. I think that's Tuesday.
Signed up.
So, but anyways, I challenge you to do that. Either come with us or watch it on your own. There's 4 different classes offered. If you can't do it that day, you can hit one of the others.
I think I put that on I put that also on our private Facebook page, so you
And
guys.
And it was in an
You
email
are.
that I sent last week. So if you can't find it, let us know, but it should be
Yeah.
there. We're also going, like I said, it's gonna be a host party. We'll make it fun as well. Again, this is virtual, however, we're urging you to watch these videos, and I'm gonna send you out a link later on as well. Second, we're going to be immediately adding to our calendar classes to continue to review buyer's agency, understand that agreement. So that the current agreement that's out there, you can start utilizing it now. It's great to start internalizing it, practicing and so forth. That way you're gonna learn how to communicate, mistakes people have made about it, we'll talk about that, and best practices. And that way we're up to speed when whatever comes down the pipe comes down the pipe. Yeah,
Those value spring classes that have been offered, and there's already been one.
Yeah.
Each one of them is different. So.
well, surely that's a great point. And they said on our call on Monday that as this information unfolds, they're gonna continue to be different. You're right, you're absolutely right. Thank you for bringing that up. So watch all of them and register for all of them. You know, this is investing into your future and your career, guys. Thank you, Shirley. We'll continue to also hold masterminds here. Just remember that this proposed settlement, it's not a final settlement. It does have to be approved by the courts, which has not yet happened. Very similar to when the first verdict happened and there were questions from your clients, your job is to properly educate them on the issues and move forward. Try not to dwell on it. This morning during the clubhouse conversation, the Central Ohio Clubhouse, they were talking about one of the agents. He said, you know, he was kind of freaking out about this. And so he went to this group of men that are professionals that he networks with on a regular basis and said, what comes up in your real estate feed as far as real estate goes? And he goes, I get something from you and one other person. That's it. Think about who's on your real estate feed. A lot of them are other realtors. A lot of this connotation, yes, there's negative connotation and the news has not been our friend, the press has not been our friend. But you know what? So many people are not running to the hills with their hair on fire like, oh my God, this is happening in the public sector. So don't make it a bigger deal than it has to be. Just be ready to educate, calm their nerves, and you stay calm. And that's why, you know, we're gonna keep having all of this education around it as things unfold, because we want you to know what's happening.
Okay, Steven has a question on Zoom.
Okay, hang on, can I finish this and then we'll come out and get questions here in a second? So when we talk about sharpening your skills, we mean that you need to be educated, the true issues of the case, and be able to clearly articulate them, correctly and concisely communicate them. I want to remind you, don't give an opinion, just talk about the facts, Jack, so to speak. Let's see, last and certainly not least, commissions always have been and always will be negotiable. And as the agent, you have always and always will have the ability to choose your rate and present to the consumer. And choose if you don't want to work with someone, if it's that big of an issue. So know that you have choices, you know, in there as well. Your job is to communicate your value proposition as an agent and what you provide to help. Also, these are the next steps in the process. There are strong grounds for the court to approve this settlement because it is in the best interest of all parties and the class members of this suit. The practice changes will go into effect in July. We're going to hear different things that's going to change 10 times between now and July. The settlement is subject to court approval, which is a process that we can expect to take several months or more and will include an opportunity for interested parties to object. In large class action settlements like this one, objections are common. We will move to have litigation about the MLS cooperative compensation model rules stayed or paused as to NAR pending the settlement approval process. NAR will also continue to provide updates about the settlement process as it unfolds. And I'll include in this email to you guys that I have prepared a website. It's called competition.realtor. So we understand this is concerning. However, it's open-ended at this point. We can't make any final determinations. Keep getting educated, go to the classes, focus on your database and bring value to them that only you can bring as a realtor. and serving them at a high level. I know we had a question up there. I'm sorry, I just didn't want to stop it, kind of concluding where we are, because I don't want people to, I hope this settles your nerves a little bit. Go ahead with your question. Oh, if I have a buyer's agreement in place and my buyer is the one compensating me, will title be the one collecting that compensation?
Good question. Remember, these are outside the contract. So what you would have to let your daughter company know.
Well, you
And
have to,
don't forget, because, you know, it's really hard to get money once you disperse it. But in the commercial world, we do this all the time. If I close a deal, I have to submit an invoice to the title company to let them know what our compensation, because again, the title company, the bankers, and nobody else knows, but they need to know, what, so we submit invoices. So
and
submit your invoice,
your invoice and your buyer's agreement,
and, yeah,
showing that there was an agreement signed. What other questions do you guys have?
I think we also might want to really pull back and don't think too much, because I come home and I ask my husband, AKA my client, and I asked him, what do you know about the lawsuit that people talking about? He said, isn't it the same if I'm the seller and I agree to pay the buyer agent, everything is normal, right? See, so maybe we have too much in our head and we think too much and we want to read too much. But if we explain to the seller properly, this is normal.
you're right. If the question isn't asked and they agree, I mean, you are informing them how the distribution of fees would be paid. That's the important part. You want to, you know, make sure the client knows. We have to inform these people. But, you know, if you know, some people just say, give me the paperwork, I'll sign it. And some people are like engineers and I want to know every little detail that's going into this thing. So, but if you happen to have an engineer type client, you better be prepared to understand your value proposition of what you're doing.
Yeah, don't be alarmed, don't raise concern where there is no
Yeah,
concern.
so you don't have to say it, Tracy's right. Explain. If they have the agreement, then let's continue to move forward. We're not being deceptive, we are being informative, but some people like considerable lot more detail.
Just get more business, that's all.
That's right, more business. All right,
Yeah, but so I guess so, I mean, just keep in mind, I think the three things today is that this is not a settlement lawsuit. Cooperative compensation remains a choice, will remain a choice moving forward with the consumer when buying and selling a home. The other one is the MLS in the future will be prohibiting offers of compensation to the MLS, compensation on the MLS. But it also says that this is meaning the offer of broker compensation could not be communicated through the MLS, but they could continue to be an option the consumer can pursue off MLS through negotiations and consultations with the real estate professional. So, so moving forward, the NAR has agreed and enact these rules. So come July or whenever that final settlement is, these are the things that will be enacted.
Wait, so you just said July, whenever that, July is when these things are supposed to happen. When is the date for the settlement to be ratified?
I don't know.
It's a
nobody
process.
knows, because they're expecting to have
Because
stays and put in place.
Well, I think what
appeals
they're
and-
doing is if the settlement's ratified, they're projecting that these rules will take place in July. So sometime between now and July.
But we don't know.
And just for perspective, we had a settlement 2 years ago, NAR did with the government 2 years ago, and a judge came in and nixed it. And that could happen on this. So the DOJ came in and nixed it actually.
Well, you know, what's interesting too, I was on our regional call Monday, and an OP from Indiana said the governor of Indiana made a blanket rule go into effect last Friday, about the same time this came out, about how they were handling it. So who knows what's gonna happen? I mean, we could have our local governments, you know, throw a monkey wrench into things. We could have, you know, NAR, anybody. So We can't speculate. We just have to kind
A
of,
lot of it's gonna have to do with lenders, because they're gonna see everything's gonna be much more transparent. The hard thing is, you gotta answer questions right now with buyers. And sellers, but why am I gonna pay this thing? You know, and I always, my conversation with my sellers is, you know, you understand that part of this fee that we're charging is gonna go to somebody who's not working on the cap. And I framed it in such a way where they say, I don't care, just bring me a buyer, give me the most money for the house. I don't care if they work for it.
That's generally what people want.
If the buyer isn't willing to offer the price of the home, the seller's not selling the home. You know what I mean? Like, the buyer is, oh yeah, you look at the net number, so, the buyer is the person with money.
And the worst part to me is that sellers have got more wealth in their homes now than ever. And now they make it look like we are taking all the money.
Oh, they get so greedy.
taking all the money. And it's like,
Break down what these attorneys are being paid. Most of the
well, that's what it is. You know, Brent always said that the same attorneys who sue the tobacco companies, because they want to withdraw this lawsuit. So you know, that just have to make class action lawsuits.
What I'm concerned about is don't Fannie and Freddie have to meet a certain number of subprime loans, like a certain percentage of subprime loans per year. And then if buyers can't afford to buy, they're not meeting their goals, so it's inevitable that lending would change in some way, I feel like.
That's not necessarily subprime, because those are non-QM loans, which Fannie and Freddie don't get into.
Okay.
The local banks are required to have so much community-based mortgaging, community-based lending. So, yes, that could affect it, obviously. Fannie and Freddie being a GSE, they're just really just aggregator of servicing and creating mortgage-backed securities.
But if buyers start to plummet, they're not, they won't have the quotas, right?
Exactly, and that's really who this, I think price ranges are 500 below and first time home, right? Because obviously what I see is typically buyers at a $500,000 price point or over are more established as far as access to assets, whether that be savings, stock investments, 401ks. This would be less of a problem for them. Where you're gonna see it is, you know, the first time home buyers who are bootstrapping everything they can to get in at home. And unfortunately, first time home buyer prices now are 300,000 plus. You know, you don't see $90,000 homes anywhere as your first home because you guys have done such a great job. And I'll just add two other things real quick. First is in your presentation, make sure, I think it's an NAR article, Google it, but they're predicting, and other sources are higher than this, 40% of buyers in 24 and 25 will be first time home buyers. So does your seller want to exclude 40 to 50% of the buyer?
that's a great number, great statistic.
I would not, right? You want as many eyes and potential buyers as you can to see your property. So if you're not offering a cooperative compensation to a buyer's agent and you eliminate 40 to 50% of your buyers, can you realize top dollar for that property? I'm not an expert, that's where you guys are, but I'm sure you can take that and use it. The second thing I'll add is, you know, in 2009, Dodd-Frank came in and totally changed how loan officers can be paid, right? And there was a lot of similar reactions to what I've seen online, not as much here. I haven't seen the panic in the world is ending and, you know, were there some loan officers that left the business? Yes. And you know who they were? They were folks that could not articulate their value proposition and they couldn't compete on a level playing field. Because what that did is it brought TRID, right? So now all of us had to disclose all of our fees up front in the lending estimates. They had to be accurate now because our fees have zero tolerance. So if we list something that's lower than it should be, we eat it. And then there's a section that only allows a 10% tolerance. And you know what? In 2011, 12, and 13, I had some of my most productive years. Why? Because I was always playing the game the right way anyway. I knew what I brought to the table and I would educate buyers to make the best financial decision. Well, when that happened, they referred more clients to me. So I think those of you that are already doing a great job with buyers and sellers, just stay the course, right? Don't panic. Express your value prop. Use the statistics available to make it make sense to a seller that, hey, we're gonna get more money for your home if we have the best buyer pool available, then just go forward. All of this will become normal very quickly. You know, it did for us. There were systems changes, processing changes, some software changes. But within a month or two, it just became the new norm. And, you know, let's be honest, if there's gonna be some assholes that don't wanna pay anybody. There are now. There's discount brokerages right now that list homes for 1% or a flat fee, right? Those aren't your competition.
There's some states that have been doing business this way already for a long time, like New York.
Yes.
So I think the unintended consequences here that trying to be better than consumers and things, just think if I'm a buyer's agent, an old part like me that's gone through, that had some experiences and things, who needs a buyer's agent more than anybody? It's a first time homeowner. If they can't afford it and they don't get paid, they're the ones that are getting screwed. That's why I say it's the unintended consequence if it comes to that. If the seller does be an idiot and says, we're not gonna compensate it. But you're really not helping out the people that need to help them out.
I agree with you, George. Like, if this was an action to protect buyers, it totally was on one side.
DOJ and just say, here's the unintended consequence.
Steering. And then
Yeah, no,
because of that, we're gonna have, you know, lawsuits.
Hey, Dayla.
Question on here, I saw that she said if you do provide your invoice to the title company, does the agent do it, does the brokerage do it? You are the agent of the brokerage, you would be the one who would provide that invoice to them in your agreement. So I just wanted to let you know what she said and then what the response was to that.
I mean, again, the broker gets paid, so it's payable to Keller Williams, Greater Columbus, Lori Hicks. This is the property we dealt with. This is the compensation agreement that was agreed upon. So, you know, it's like, because don't be mistaken that if you say payable to Mark Sullivan, but the title company doesn't write me a check. You know, because the broker gets paid, the agent is paid for the broker. I just concluding with this conversation today, the National Association of Realtors has a great website. And if you log into there and you go to the search bar, you go to ADR, Accredited Buyers Representation, the first thing that's going to pop up is that the NAR is offering a free course for the ADR. And it's not a required course, but in signing up, you have to, it's like two days in a row, like 4 or 5 hours a day. And it goes into all the details that we've talked about today. And it'll really help you build your value proposition. You're also members of Ohio Realtors. You should be on the Ohio Realtor website and reading what they're downloading, what they're saying. Because remember, they represent us. And then Columbus Realtors are, again, over there. He'll keep us posted on what's going on. He'll keep us posted. So we have our back is being covered. We have NAR, OR, and Columbus Realtors. So pay attention. I mean, and we will have classes here, but just don't rely on these classes. You know, our classes are about an hour. And it's going to take a little bit more time. I mean, today's unusual. We have about 2 hour time window right here, didn't we? To make sure we broke the ice on this appropriately. So pay attention. You all have access to these websites. They're all, you pay for them, use them.
All right. My family reunion people. Can I get you just to walk up front? We're just gonna share a couple of ahas that you brought back from family reunion. Have you guys and Jensen and Word and Johnson? I'm shy. Where's Mick? Where'd he go? It's squirrely. Dina, that's right. Hey, Rob, will you go ask your brother to come in?
He's going back to his office.
So, all right, well, this isn't everybody that went to family reunion. Some of you might be on Zoom and I can't see you, so I apologize. If you're on Zoom with family reunion, I want you to chime in as well. But the family reunion was a lot of information. In Las Vegas, it was kind of a crazy, atmosphere to be in and around. However, there were some great takeaways that everybody got, and everybody went to different sessions, and we all went to some of the same sessions. but I'd like you to share maybe your top 3 takeaways. So who would like to start? Can you first go?
Well, I'm so new to Keller Williams, I don't know that, I feel like I was a little overwhelmed by the amount of information, but what I learned is that Keller Williams is a place that wants you to be able to build your business, right? So that was the main thing I learned. Number 2 is there's no lack of, education and knowledge that we can learn from each other. People from all over the country, all over the world were there. It was unbelievable, the amount of, interaction we had and the networking ability that we had there. So that was something I learned, is that you guys are great at networking. But other than that, I learned that there are a lot of different software that we use at Keller Williams that we may not be thinking of. It's not like just in command, stuff for accounting. There are a lot of different new things I discovered, and you guys may already know about that because you've been here for a while. But if you don't, I encourage you to get in there and look at your resources and see what you could be utilizing, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We spend a lot of time trying to do that as agents, I think, and it's such a time saver to have that stuff already available to us.
Very good.
Well, as you guys know, obviously my role is a lot different than what really anybody does. So a lot of what I take away is more so in terms of how I can streamline processes that I do for you guys. So one of the big things, which I've already mentioned a couple different times, is the way I pay you guys is going to be drastically changing, but for the better on my end. And then for you guys, it's going to be a much simpler process. So the biggest thing is, you're still going to submit your commissions in command. It's just going to be one page, quick information, hit submit, send to me. Again, like streamlining that process for you instead of entering in your opportunity, then going onto the offers page and then going into your commission, and yeah, you'll still have to obviously make edits, add in certain things. But the biggest thing that I took away that affects you guys is that process is getting so much simpler. And from what I understand, and at least what I'm getting, is they're rolling this out in groups. The first group did everything this last month. We most likely are going to be around group 4. So we got a couple more months. And as soon as I know how that process looks, obviously I'll be getting trainings out to you guys to, walk you through it, get new tutorials, recorded, all that fun stuff. So I just have one big thing that really pertains to you guys, and it's that. So yeah.
Well, I've been going to, hey you, how are you? So I've been going to conferences for, probably the last 20 years, and some in real estate, some in other industries. And I will tell you, Family Reunion was one of the best conferences I have ever been to. I brought away so much just value for myself and my business. They had breakout sessions for, just taking away those limiting beliefs, just really helping you with your value propositions. Different aspects of your business, whether you're working with seniors or commercial or, first-time home buyers, whatever that niche is for you. They had so many breakout sessions that you could bring so many different opinions, different things that you can include in your business with that. And there's so much support, not just within our own brokerage, but just company-wide. So that was really what I saw, in just agents working with agents and really helping each other just all over the world. I mean, we met people from Turkey and Poland and Spain. So like that just was a few of the places, and just get their cards, keep in touch with them, because they will bring, different insights to your business that can only elevate you.
Plus, you never know when you're gonna have a Barcelona referral.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So
There you go. Right. Hi, good morning, everybody. Hey, what's going on in Buckeye Lake with you two both being here? Is anything happening out there? No real estate, of course.
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Not with you being here.
Oh, well, not right now.
Come on, Kat, keep up. Yeah. My 21st family reunion, and it did not disappoint. I got like 1,500 steps a day. It was crazy. I had
did not.
1,500?
Oh,
I was gonna say, I was 15,000. I got it rolling. We got a break at the button. So I was on a scooter and I thought I was Jeff Wood, not Nick Wood, trying to zigzag.
That had to be hard.
It was intense, is
Yeah.
what it was. You know, trying not to clip people's Achilles heel with my scooter and still get where I was going. I'm to a point when I go to a family reunion, mega camp, whatever, if I can come away with one or two things that are memorable to me, that's what I strive for. Mel Robbins, by far and away, was, I thought, the star of the show. If you don't know who Mel is an author, Mel is a speaker, motivational and otherwise. Mel 10, 14 years ago developed a technique that helps her with procrastination and anxiety, and it's called the 5-second rule. Mel 14 years ago was $800,000 in debt. You know, 4 to 5 Manhattans a night. It was really not on a good pattern. Her marriage was in trouble, all the things, right? And she came up with this way to pull herself out of the despair, the haze, whatever you want to call it. I think we've all been there at one point in our lives, and it was called the 5-second rule. She was the queen of the Zoom, or not the Zoom. Snooze. The snooze button. I've got Zoom on my brain, but she would hit the snooze button 5-6 times, and she finally developed this. And funny enough, at the end of the day, she saw this countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it was a rocket taking off, an Atlas rocket. And she goes, you know, that's what I ought to do. And the next morning, instead of hitting the snooze button, she counted back from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then told herself to move. And she got out of bed and she got her day going. And she found that using that same technique for little things, when she finds herself getting ready to procrastinate, because we all know when that moment is, right? Should I do this, or should I go, you know, play with this squirrel over here? And in a matter of 4 to 5 years, Mel had her own TV show. She was a correspondent and a talking head for CNN. She had written 2 books. Her husband had turned their pizza business around, and she owes it all to the 5-second rule. She's had people from all over the world reach out to her. She's had people reach out to her that said, your 5-second rule saved my life. I was contemplating suicide, and I decided to take your advice and do the 5-second rule. And that person was a military veteran and changed his mind. And how powerful is that? So Mel was the highlight. I bought a couple of her books. I'm almost done with it. Bought one for my daughter who battles anxiety. Mel said this technique has literally cured her anxiety, and there's so much anxiety in this world that you know, any little trick that you can do, technique, whatever, really paid dividends for her. But you know, Vegas is always fun. We had an amazing dinner. Has anybody talked about the dinner yet? Best wings ever. When we go to cities that we don't know where restaurants are, I always go on Guy Fieri's website, D Diners, Drive-Ins, Dives, and see where he visits. And that's how you find the hole in the wall in the area. And I was a little nervous when we walked in. I was like, uh-oh, definitely a dive. The food was amazing. Strong bully. The group from Excel joined us. So John, how many do we have now? 35 maybe?
At least.
Yeah, at least. It was just a fun time, everybody getting to know each other. It's the one thing we've done for 21 family reunions in a row. If you come visit and you invest your money, we are going to take you out to dinner. And we did, and that was a lot of fun. But it was a great event, and it looks like the next 2 years are going to be back to Vegas. So start saving your money.
The Mel Robbins thing too, she also has podcasts,
Yeah.
and I've been listening to those since we've been back. I had never heard her before. I totally agree with you.
Well, she was incredible. We had one other speaker, his name unknown guy named Tony Robbins, right? You know, rah, everybody up, you know, just, really rah in the place.
Tony Robbins was there and had just had surgery on his shoulder like
Surgery.
2 days before
Yeah.
that, and he showed up like you would not believe.
Callaway's is fun.
Yeah, pretty
Callaway
amazing.
brought the
Yeah.
talent to us and it was incredible. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You can- you
I
can
gotta get
listen-
brackets filled out.
You can listen to her book.
I have the book on tape, yeah.
Has it on YouTube, she reads it.
Oh, wow,
It's
okay.
amazing, you can read it.
I hear her TED talk. She refers to her TED talk
Yeah.
that started it all. And I've heard it's just absolutely amazing. So there's just only so much time in the day to hit all that stuff. But Mel was a surprise to me because I'd never heard of her. A lot of people I talked to had definitely heard of her and were following.
Her podcast on money is amazing.
She's-
I want all of my
she's
kids,
talking itself, so.
I want all my kids to listen to it.
Sleep is really good.
I should have gone before Mick because literally Mel Robbins spoke to me also. He was pretty, but
I'm just saying,
yeah, and wishy-washy, I think, was like transcended through everyone there. She was so much energy. I bought her book on the spot. I actually bought 2 books at the same time and started with another one, but I also did like a lot of leadership stuff there. So when I'm at convention, what I like to do is write books down and write like quotes that I hear that really like speak to me for when I get back, I can reread them. So I think those are what I'm gonna share with you. I will say 1 in 5 homes in the United States was through a Keller Williams agent. So I think that that's a really, I know Bill said that to a lot of our people all the time. That's a pretty amazing stat. I wrote down 1 in 5, so, if it was 2 and 5, then I stand corrected, so I thought that was really awesome. Okay, and then the other things that I wrote down that I thought I'd share, again, are like just quotes that I heard. And there's 3 of them. You don't have to be winning to be on the journey, you just need to be on the journey. So a lot of what we've been hearing is just the mundane consistency of being a real estate agent. And to get through all of these ups and downs, are you doing your lead generation? Are you following up? Are you going on appointments? Are you writing contracts? And everyone is scared of this and don't always think they need it, but are you doing your script and your role play? Are you practicing your conversations on people that are like-minded like you versus practicing your conversations on your clients? So that was a big one. And then, is that the best you can do or the best that can be done? I was like, wow, should ask yourself that every time you do a task. So I'm gonna share that. And then you will double your chances of success if you have someone you're accountable to every week. So as you guys know, as Keller Williams agents, we always talk about like having a coach, and it doesn't have to be a max coach, but it could even be your family members, your husband, your sisters, your kids, like having your goals and saying, hey, if I meet these goals and share that with your family, we're gonna do this. What would you like to see? And we hear this like with, not everyone has kids, but as a great example is you can say, if I go on all my listing appointments or go on all my appointments, or if I have this many listings or this many appointments, by the end of the month, then we're gonna go on this big trip. And you get people saying, hey, how'd you do today? Did you go on your appointments? Did you make your calls? And so that was like a really big thing, is you have to have, it's hard to be accountable to yourself. We all know that, right? Who has a gym membership and like doesn't go, but
Let me call you in the morning.
Uh-oh.
We go into
Wait,
the
I did not
gym,
have that part out
so
loud, but yeah, having someone accountable to, whether it's your family, a coach, a mentor, those check-ins are so important, I think, so.
You wanna go next, Tammy?
Sure. So this is my first family reunion and my first time to Vegas. So it was eye-opening. It was a lot of fun. 15,000 agents? 18,000 agents. Yes, just clamoring the hallway, trying to find our way through our rooms and everything. But, so I guess from a tech point, in Command, there's going to be a new feature coming. It's based on the AI for from the heat seeker.
and it's likely to list or buy based on your context in your database. So it uses AI to identify deal opportunities on agents' behalf using their contacts database. Early identification of properties likely to be placed for sale or clients highly motivated to buy. So that'll be coming soon. That'll be really interesting to see that roll out within your command database.
I was on a KWRI call last week and I was talking with one of the developers. It's very important that you're going in and making sure your contacts are as complete as you can, because one of the insights that I pitched that I thought that the AI would crawl through is, we know that people usually buy or sell every 3 to 5 to 7 years. So if you have that home anniversary in there, you have their address, it'll crunch all of the cyclical nature of your clients. And I assume there's going to be third party, cookieing of your clients, especially if they're using the consumer app. And then it'll take that data and that's where it's going to come up with. But make sure your health score is as high as you can.
And if you are a skeptic of AI, come talk to me, because they've released this for us back in the fall. And I met Katie and Ken Richards because of this and several others, and it works. I was the biggest skeptic thinking, oh, whatever, so I didn't embrace it. And then once I did, it's been game changing. So AI is real.
Hey, I
Even
just
for
got
old
me out
people.
of jury.
Huh?
Hey, I just got me out of jury.
Oh, that's okay, I'm sorry, we done.
Just one other coming soon feature that Command's going to roll out is chatbot within Command. It's a supportive, helpful AI assistant that works alongside Keller Williams real estate professionals, based solely on knowledge contained within the KW curated content and trading data. So they're trying to, at this point, I think they were trying to name this chatbot. They don't know what to name it yet, so they were taking votes and suggestions on what to name her or him.
That
Kelly.
I've used for an app before, but.
I don't know.
I'm sure.
It's for agents because it's embedded within KW Command and Connect.
Yep. So they chat with their clients.
Right. It's limited. It is a chat bot. It's not an actual chat. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll be a cool.
Gotta start somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah. So I actually love Mel Robbins too. I've been downloading I'm listening to a lot of her podcasts. She was amazing. Tony Robbins was amazing. He was there for what, 3 hours? 3 hours. I thought that was incredible. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. I got a lot of good information out of it, and I had a lot of nice people and really fun. I can't wait to go back.
What's the back?
I don't know after the last place, what was that called? So, Fremont Street.
Oh, no.
Holly in there.
Yeah, where I left my cash, my phone.
Hey, whatever. Days in Vegas came along. Unless you get a tattoo.
All right, well,
And you tell her that.
do me a favor, speak up just so they can hear you.
Pretty much everybody's been said. I was big Mel Robbins, actually reading her book right now, and on this morning's chapter was on procrastination. And so, like, speaking in front of everybody, I don't like speaking in front of people. 5, 4, you gotta count backwards and do it. Anyway, just to reiterate what everybody said, but it also made me realize how little I am. You think you're hot stuff, you go out there and see 18,000 people. And what it comes down to is your own personal economy, I guess. And everything there was available to you at whatever point in your life you are. I mean, if you're, again, using the term, but old part like me, they had perspective breakouts. They had day-to-day breakouts. They had, the thing I like most about it, that every speaker that I went to has been there, done that, meaning that they're actually agents who have sold. They're actually people who are doing what they were teaching. They were not just, you see authors of books who write about other things that they've never done. I've read a book about a guy saying that, buying a house is the stupidest thing you could ever do, throw it rent. Well, the guy never bought a house. Everybody that presented though was somebody that's done what we've done. I always respect that. And, to hear Mike Ziancola.
trying to think of what he does, but he sponsors a LGBT, he's a gay guy, but he had his face slashed. That's why he grows a beard, so you can't see the big scar on his face.
If you guys don't know who Mike is, he is part of the Easy team in Cleveland, that our Capital Ohio team is an expansion team up. And Mike was an attorney and then a real estate agent, so just like.
He's one where his mouth is, like I said, he's been there, done that, he's actually doing it. And that's what I liked about everybody, they all do it, so that's my takeaway.
And if you've not seen Tony Robbins, Tony comes with energy, he has people yelling, jumping. I didn't know Paul George could yell until then.
You had to.
I was standing in between Paul and Steve Springer, who are both quiet guys, and they're both screaming and jumping around. I was, oh my goodness, I was in shock.
That's 6 beers beforehand.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Vincent.
What? That's it. My biggest takeaway is don't get a VIP table at the strip club or you'll be bombarded all night. It is good. No, it's annoying. Just going back and looking at the trend lines, I think is always a good, our business has ups and downs, and Gary kind of came out on stage and was like, I don't know why you're all here, I'm just gonna tell you the same thing again. And he proceeded to do that, but it's always good to reinforce that the interest rates are not really that high. And there are highs and there are lows, and if you pay attention to the market, it's,
But it's winter right now, we're coming in the spring.
right. But and when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago or today?
When's the second?
So it's just,
Laying the groundwork for now, because it's coming. Big one.
So, I would, all I was interested in is learning more about building my systems and processes, because that's what's gonna make you successful and be able to scale and grow.
Do we have anybody on Zoom that was at family reunion to share? I'm like Nick in that I've been to 20+ family reunions. And one of the things that I took away from it is, and this is what was very personal for me this year. I mean, I took away a lot of the same things that have already been spoken. I'm not gonna repeat that. They were wonderful. But I took away personal reflection. And sometimes we work on our businesses every day, all day, and we're that hamster on the wheel. And we've got to step back and work on our business, work on ourselves, on our goals, where we are, and not just our business goals, but personal, broader perspective goals. So that was a big piece for me this year. I went to a couple of different things that were about that. Mega camp is coming. If you miss family reunion, you're like, doggone it. Mega camp's coming. It's time to start thinking about going, planning your ticket, and it's a totally different event. It's a day and a half, listening to panels led by Gary Keller and the leadership group. The other thing is the stats that Gary brings. One of the things I've always loved about Keller Williams, Gary started the Real Estate Institute of Baylor. They do nothing but study the real estate world, market, business. And Gary teaches there and very involved. Well, he brings that, helps analyze that. We have those slides. Those are great talking points to use when you go on appointments. And we're going to be scheduling masterminds and doing just that, talking through those slides and how we can use them, how we can, further enhance our business with it. And then also pull the slides from Columbus to compare with it of the statistics and things happening here. So, be the master of your market, study the MLS, study those slides, be that informed person. It's important now more than ever because there's more questions about real estate. So be that person, be that resource. Anybody else raise their hand there, Rachel? Okay. All right. Look for the slides for our office meeting. We're going to have them on the screens because we do still want to celebrate people's wins, what they've done. Can I get our sponsor to come in and introduce yourself? They brought us lunch. And thank you for coming in early. We want you to get to March Madness and have lunch and so forth. So
Good morning, nice to see you all. My name is Jessie Hennig and I'm with Smith Transitions. I'll keep it short because I know you're probably more excited for lunch than hearing about me. But we do have an incredible service I want to share with you. We are a comprehensive move manager. We are designed for seniors, but we can assist anyone who's thinking, you know, I've got this big move coming up and I really don't feel like packing my entire house, unpacking and setting it up. So we can do anything involved in the moving process, except actually selling the house. So we can work with clients to make floor plans of what will fit in their new home. We will sort with them in each area of the house to help them work through, what do I want to take, what's important to me, what goes to family and friends, what do I maybe want to leave behind to sell and donate. We do all of their packing. We also have our own moving trucks and heavy lifters. We will unpack and put everything away in the new home based on pictures we take of how it's set up. So if you've got your books in alphabetical order in your old home, we'll put them back in alphabetical order in your new home. We will also hang pictures, mount TVs, connect electronics, and at the end of the move process, when your home is completely set up, there's nothing to unpack or put away. We also handle the estate dispersal. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath, running the food back and forth. Thank you, Darren, for your help, and Pamela. With the estate dispersal, we can manage the sale, donation, or disposal of anything the client doesn't take with them. We'll shred sensitive documents, dispose of trash, recycling, household hazardous waste. So at the end of the move, your client's home is completely emptied out. It's ready to go on the market. And as opposed to, especially when working with seniors, this downsizing process can take, we see 6 to 9 months, usually with family members helping alone. With a professional like Smooth Transitions, we can get a house turned around, emptied out, and ready for the market in a matter of weeks, 2 weeks usually. So if you have any questions, I'll be around. We've got Chick-fil-A for lunch. Should I do questions now before lunch?
Sure.
Okay. Yes.
So, how do you provide a quote? You walk the house and give a quote, or you charge per quote, or you charge per hour?
We charge based on the project. So I meet with the client in their home for a consultation. I'm looking at the size of the home, how full it is. Maybe they've downsized before, they don't have as much. Maybe they've lived in the same home for 50 years. It's almost a hoarding situation. We do all kinds of situations. So we look at those factors and which services they're using. We can do the total package that I described. They don't lift a finger for them to move. Or if they just want someone to come in and pack a few boxes, they just need heavy lifting, we'll price it by those individual services. But we do provide a binding not to exceed estimate for the cost of the project, so that they have the peace of mind knowing the most it would be and how that fits into their budget.
So is your estimate based on hourly living or
The project. We do have an hourly rate. If the client were to say just need a few hours of packing, would be 65 an hour. Most often though, if they're using multiple services, we provide the total project price.
where do you, what areas do you cover?
We cover all of Central Ohio out to Delaware, London, Newark, now Winchester and Lancaster area. So, pretty broad range outside of Tucson.
You coordinate donations as well?
We do, yeah. So we'll sell as much as we can for the client, but anything of donation quality, books, clothes, general household goods.
So anything that's sold, you just use that against what the payment might be?
The client will receive a check directly from the auction house or vendor that sells their items, and they can choose to apply that to the cost of their move or not. It's up to them.
You know what's saleable or not saleable?
We have a pretty good idea after the many years that we've been doing this. Our move manager will walk through the home, photograph the types of items and send them to the different auction partners that we work with and figure out who is the best fit to sell the types of items the client has. Anything else?
Any questions from Lancaster land?
Oh, I didn't know we had people online. I'm so sorry.
Okay, they're off with them. All right. Thank you so much for bringing lunch. All right. Stick around, eat. We'll see if we can bring basketball up on the screen. If you are interested in that.
Anyone want tickets?
Oh, 50-50 tickets. Thank you, Rachel.
Tickets? It's 5 minutes.
No, I need to.